Most of our trainee crew have been reassigned. Lieutenant Savick and my son David are exploring the Genesis planet, which he helped create. And Enterprise feels like a house with all the children gone. No, more empty even than that. The death of Spock is like an open wound. It seems that I have left the noblest part of myself back there on that newborn planet.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
Admiral Kirk and his bridge crew, not to be confused with his bridge party that he plays bridge with. It's like a cross between Yoda and Abe Vigoda.
Yeah, it's Ko-Fefe.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Cheapseat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good.
The greater good.
The greater good.
Oh, there's a second voice. I'm not used to that. Oh my goodness. Welcome to this show. I'm so excited. This episode is episode 421. 421. That's right. The highway all the way to Boone. 421. And tonight we're talking about Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. They must go find him. They left him somewhere. They must go find him. The Search for Spock. I am Shawn Allred, and joining me tonight is Andrew, don't call me Tiny, Jimison.
I've heard that so many times in my life, mostly in the shower and in the bedroom.
Oh, from an echo.
Yeah. No, what's up, guys?
Hey, man. Welcome back.
Thanks. Was I gone?
No, I guess you weren't. I don't know why I said welcome back. I guess welcome back to another week of the show. I don't know why I feel like I'm off tonight. I'm not sure. But yeah, welcome back.
Lord.
Congratulations for making it another week. And that other voice that you have heard is, of course, the illustrious, making his orgasmic return is...
Wow.
All the words I usually use are just whatever. I feel like I should just, shoot.
I'm worried that was the second thing that popped in your mind after triumphant.
Yeah, triumphant and orgasmic. Is Steve, make sure when we do a close-up, the screen is nothing but your eyeball. Everett.
Steven.
Oh, you want okay.
Steven.
God.
Yeah, no.
That's tasty.
Makes you excited there, doesn't it?
Hey guys, it's good to be here. You both look beautiful. I guess our audience can't see you, but just trust me, guys. They are extra special, dolled up tonight.
Oh, that's right.
I wore my fancy clothes.
I almost wore my Trek uniform last week and thought about wearing it today too, but decided that
Yep.
You don't want to get anybody pregnant.
Yeah.
You have a full uniform?
No, it's just a shirt. It's just honestly, this is so funny. The shirt came from, it was like an Eggo waffle thing where like if you send in 4 box tops and like $5 they'll send you a shirt. And my father-in-law did this and it was my Christmas present like 10 years ago or something.
It seems like that would be like 27 box tops or something.
I don't know how many
it was only 5?
I don't know. I'll have to ask him. But yeah, my father-in-law gave it to me. It's the Command Yellow. It's the Captain Kirk Command Yellow, but it's a short sleeve. So it's not.
Does it smell like maple syrup?
It doesn't, which I think is probably a good thing because I don't want to wear it and be all excited for waffles.
I remember one time we ate Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal for like a whole year and collected the box tops. And my brother and I got a like cheap plastic watch, just one. And that was a year's worth of like adolescent boy hunger Cinnamon Toast Crunch destruction.
Yeah.
You had to share that watch.
Yeah.
Took turns. Yeah.
Did you ever like?
Well, I would just yell to him. I'd be like, "Hey, what time is it?"
And then he would scream some obscenity back to you.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Screw you," and I'd be like, "All right."
Did you guys ever do like like in the back of a comic book or whatever, where it was like you can build your own what was it, hovercraft. You guys ever do one of those?
I'm gonna have to be real with you for just a moment, and this might kind of make you angry. I have never owned a comic book.
It doesn't make me angry. It's fine.
I mean,
Why would
I
that
just
make me
figured-
angry?
I just figure some things trigger you, and that might be.
No, I don't care. I only have like most of the ones. So honestly, most of the ones that I had. So when so Steven and I. Okay, hi guys. This is the show, and Steven and I. We lived together. We didn't live together, but we went to high school, middle school, college together. I've known Steven since you were in first grade. I think I was in third. I think that math worked. Maybe fourth. So we've known each other. Literally, I've known you long. Only other person I've known longer is my parents. So wanted to get that out of the way in case new people were listening. So in High Point, where we grew up, there was a comic book shop near where you used to live off of Westchester. And I don't remember the name of the comic book shop, but it was the only one in town. And so when I would go up there, even back then, comics were expensive, right? I was not new comic kid because I couldn't afford them. So Dad would give me, $2 to go buy a comic book, which even back then was not enough to buy a new one. So I would go to the 10-cent bin and get like 15 comics. So I bought a bunch of those like old Valiant comic brand. One of them was called Magnus Robot Hunter, and it's literally about a dude who dressed like a Greek god who was impervious to metal. Like he could just cut through it with his hands, and we lived in a time where the machines were ruling the world. So
Yeah, I got really into the Green Hornet at that shop because they were basically giving those comics away.
And I think you and I like shared a handful of those back and forth too, because I think you actually introduced me to the Green Hornet, and then my dad goes, "There's a comic for this," and I said, "How do you know what this is?" He goes, "This was a TV show on in the '60s," and I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, it had Bruce Lee in it," and I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of cool." So,
and then you were like, "Steven, you have accidental great taste."
Yeah. Well, not accidental. So to your
but
point,
now I go by Steve, and my taste is awful.
Oh, well, that's okay. But to your point, Andrew, yeah, I mean, I had comics, but they were not new issue Spider-Man or anything like that. I still have a handful of the ones from my youth, and I asked my old landlord, like, "Hey, are any of these worth anything?" No, but they're nice.
You know what? They're worth exactly what they were when you bought them.
Yeah, which I guess technically means they've depreciated. It's not
Right.
even the paper is Yeah. So anyway, but I did buy one of those things in the back of a comic where it was like you could have your own hovercraft. So send this in with like $1.95, and so I did, and they send you an instruction manual on how to build a hovercraft with a vacuum cleaner motor.
Oh my God!
And I was like, "Hey, Mom and Dad, can I take apart the vacuum to build this?" And they're like, "No." So I never built my hovercraft.
Man, and that is such like think of how many girls you would have had sex with if they would have just let you do that.
Yeah, at the time, I don't think I cared about that kind of thing, but I see what you mean. If I still have that hovercraft now, yeah.
Yeah, man. The reputation you would have gotten as a kid that built his own hoverboard would have lasted for your entire life.
Yeah.
Especially if it was legit, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, didn't Mythbusters build, like, they built it and they would use, like, leaf blowers or something to power it to make it go forward? Because there was no motor to drive it forward. It was just, the vacuum cleaner was just create the air cushion to elevate it.
You know what? Hear me out. I have an idea for a TV show where it's myth busting. The Mythbusters, like times where people in conversation go, "Yeah, oh yeah, I think there was a Mythbusters about that," but there really wasn't. But we all say that about everything.
Yeah.
And then so the TV show is just following up with folks and being like, in just natural conversation, be like, "Actually, there was not a Mythbusters about that."
I like that. That would be a good. It sounds like actually a good podcast. I like it. So, what is not Mythbusters, however, are not in this movie, nor hovercraft, though there are things that fly. And this is again the search for Spock, the 1980. Oh, is 84? Am I getting that math right? 1984.
Yes.
The search for Spock.
It's the year I was born.
Nice.
Me too. Me too.
Well, that's makes it.
But
very...
I don't remember this film coming out.
You don't remember it coming out the year you were born?
No.
Oh, well, that's strange. Well, Andrew, tell us what this movie is, and then we can kind of get into the meat of this show.
Admiral Kirk and his bridge crew, not to be confused with his bridge party that he plays bridge with, risk their careers by stealing the decommissioned U.S.S. Enterprise to return to the restricted Genesis planet to recover Spock's body. First of all, I don't think that the ship was decommissioned yet when they stole it.
Well,
was it?
Yeah, I mean, the Admiral did say the Enterprise is 20 years old. It's done. We're gonna.
But it wasn't like
it's set
they
to
just
be
turned the lights off.
decommissioned. He said it's set to be
Right.
decommissioned.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, yeah, I'm not trying. Believe me, I'm not trying to argue in favor of the IMDb read.
They were just like, put the keys in the dish next to the door.
Yeah.
Come in.
Yeah. And they actually just walk outside, and then real loud they go, "You are decommissioned."
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So Andrew, I know last week we did the 5th movie, and you were fairly lost.
No, well, not lost. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's very fair to say. So
yeah,
because
watch the 4th movie, and you'll wind up on your journey home.
Yeah,
I know,
the one with the whales. So I'll be curious to hear your opinion about this movie, because you have seen The Wrath of Khan within the last 2 years, because we did it for the podcast.
Yeah, and I like The Wrath of Khan. I watched the first Star Trek before we did Wrath of Khan, so it's not like that long. Yeah.
That's the sound the cloud makes for those that were wondering what that was.
Yes. So yeah, as far as story goes, I'm not completely lost.
Okay, good.
Wait, so had you not seen all the Star Treks, Jimison?
No, I've seen them, but it's been a hot minute for some of them.
Okay.
And I don't remember all, everything that happens. But by seeing this one again, I was reminded of things.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, then we'll. I was just curious about that, and of course, I mean, Steven, one of the main reasons why I asked you to come on the show is because Steven and I used to do marathons. We would do Trek marathons. Now, we also did other marathons. We would pick a category.
Yeah, you did.
And we would pick a category and go. And, I remember famously, well, the real fun one was the Trek one. And we got somewhere in between this one and the next one, or 4 and 5, where you and our dear friend Andrew Lejeune got into a political debate that lasted about an hour. I mean, it lasted long enough that Chris, our good friend Chris, and I left the room and went upstairs and played Nintendo for a little while and came back, and you guys were still going. And eventually I just started playing the movie.
What's funny is that was just like our dads having an argument via our mouths.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure neither of us will stand by anything we said that day.
I think Andrew would probably say, I don't think he has changed 1 inch from those points.
Well, there you go.
But,
I've come a long way.
Yes. As we all have. Anyway. But this was, so again, I'm really excited to talk about this particular one because, as we all know, any Trek fan listening knows that the even ones are the good ones and the odd ones are not the good ones, unless you're Jesse, who thinks that Nemesis is terrible. But this is my favorite of the odd one, which is a weird thing to say, but of the odd number.
Yeah, this is the best bad one.
I think
That's
it
what
is.
I say about one of my sons. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the best odd one, or you're the best bad one?
Yeah.
All right.
He likes it.
Hey, as long as he's in on the joke, it's fine. So go ahead and, Andrew, give us your 5-word review.
Well, I did a true 5-word review this time. Nimoy, better director than Shatner.
Oh.
Yeah. And I stand by that 100%.
Well, definitely when you watch the next one, too.
Yeah. This felt like I was not watching a cartoon like I was with 5. 5 was very pratfall-y and I still think back to the scene where Scotty hits his head on the beam, and the only thing it needed was the birds chirping when he fell, to make that more cartoony. But this one, I just enjoyed the story because it's a continuation of two. Literally the first 2 minutes of the movie are footage from the second movie.
Yeah.
And,
which we get then later.
Right.
And you know who else did that every time was Rocky. Just like, oh, did you like the last one? Well, what if we just put like a whole bunch of that last one in this other one? And then you're like, oh yeah, remember that last one? And then by the end of the series, it was like, well, what if we just put a little bit of each one of those last few?
Yeah. So, I never saw the series, but Spock's dad, I know, was in the series. But it's good to see the same character. I love it when you have the same person return as a character, like they did with Kirstie Alley in this one. She looked fantastic in this one. She lost a lot of weight, I think, and maybe had some work done, but that Hollywood money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I enjoyed this.
All right. Cool. All right. What you got, Steven?
5-word review. Don't worry, guys. He's fine. I just like that's the thing that you can't get past with this movie. It's just like the last movie was so fantastic because of this like huge, powerful scene, and then like everybody came to terms with what had happened. And then what if the plot for the next movie was just like, well, he's okay.
Yeah, well, Nicholas Meyer was the director of Wrath of Khan, was, both applauded and, chastised for killing off one of the main characters because they thought that Star Trek was going to be done, right? The first movie tanked, made no money. The cast didn't even really want to come back and do it because the uniforms were so bad and the costumes. So when they came back and made the second one, they thought that was it. They thought that was going to be the end of Trek. So they kill off one of the characters, and then it made so much money, Paramount was like, well, Roddenberry, we need to make some more of these. And so when the original
Don't worry, guys, he's fine.
Right. So like when the original poster came, like Leonard Nimoy argued against the search for Spock. He didn't want to have he was really trying to make it like a surprise that they actually find him at the end. He even went as far, if you noticed, which maybe you did, maybe you didn't, in the opening credits, because these are back when you had nice long credits with lots of really beautiful music. Leonard Nimoy's name is blank. So it's William Shatner, pause, DeForest Kelley, and then the rest of the cast. There's literally a blank space for Leonard Nimoy's name because he was trying to elicit
some intrigue.
Yeah, and then of course his face is on the poster.
Yeah, but I mean I get that because the whole purpose of this movie is like, oh, it's okay that my son died because friendship is the most important thing in the universe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there are worse things that we could have take from this movie.
No, for sure, but I mean, we barely even take a beat when Shatner's, where Kirk's son dies in the movie. It's just like, well, I mean.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know that moment where he falls. So there's a really great, again, piece of trivia when he falls back and misses the chair. That was an accident. He wasn't supposed to do that, but he didn't break character, and it was so powerful they kept the take. And I don't know, when I watched it again, so I watched this with my son not that long ago, and I was really curious to see his reaction to that scene. And he was kind of broken up about it a little bit. I asked him, I was like, "Did that scene bother you?" And he says, "I mean, it was really sad." He says, "But it was also kind of nice that he died so that the woman could live." I'm like,
"Yeah,
all right,
wow,
well, that's my 10-year-old. All right."
Wow, already sexist.
I mean, I know that I know that Kirk is not like Dad of the Year or anything. He's not winning any awards,
or even just present as a dad.
Right.
Well, he didn't know he was a dad until. Well, no, he did. He did.
Oh, that's right. Well, he knew, but like they were out doing their thing,
Yeah, like he didn't know. Like when he shows up, he like the first thing he does is punches him, right? And so then when Dr. Marcus shows up, he's like, "Wait, that's David?" Like he didn't know who he was. He just knew that he had a son.
Yeah, right. He was just being a smug douchebag, like normal.
Yeah.
But he was upset for a whole 5 seconds, and he was like, "All right, we gotta get Spock.
Let's drink this green Romulan ale and then go do some cool stuff."
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. That kind of bothered me a little.
Yeah, I guess because in the moment, because the Klingon commander doesn't give him much choice to do anything, right? Like the script has to keep moving along pretty quickly, and so he doesn't have time to grieve. And he would do that. I don't know if he really ever gets a chance to grieve. I mean, he does a little bit, but this plot point comes back in the 6th movie as another plot point. But
that's right.
It's I don't know. I always kind of found it really powerful in that moment, but I kind of see what you're saying, Andrew. I'm not going to argue it.
Well, and that's the Star Trek thing, right? Like we keep it pretty light, and like there are some pretty big universal themes that are in different episodes and movies and stuff, but they tend to be like, well, but everything's gonna be okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not like. Okay, so last week, we kind of got into a pretty fun Star Trek versus Star Wars a little bit, and the guys we had on, Jesse, he loves the Star Wars versus Star Trek argument. He just loves it. He eats it up. And so to your point, Stephen, yeah, Trek is, for the most part, it's a little bit light. It's a little bit, it's not space opera like Star Wars. But I mean, Star Wars is the same thing. Star Wars also kind of feels like no one dies for forever. Like, oh, you died? Well, it's fine. We want to have you back, so you're just a Force ghost. Or, oh, Darth Maul, you're dead? Well, no, not really. Just because we watched you get cut in half and you fell down.
Lieutenant Dan, you got new legs.
Yeah, I mean.
That's what happened.
Yeah, he got new legs.
It's the same story. They took it
it's exactly
straight the same. That's where they got the idea.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah. So, Spock dies, but not really. But I mean, David's dead for forever.
Or is he?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't come back in this timeline, so he did.
He gone.
He gone. All right. My 5-word review, if I can get my mouse to work.
Hey, Shawn, what's your 5-word review?
Oh, thanks.
And is it filthy?
No, I wrote 3 of them. I did.
Does one mention Scott McGinnis?
Does what?
Does one mention Scott McGinnis?
No.
Okay. All right, then you can continue.
Oh, I was like, should it?
No.
Oh, okay. I wrote, let's see, 5-word review. So, Fuzzy Science plus Christopher Lloyd. So, there we go. Nice.
Okay.
Kind of like Back to the Future. Let's see. A favorite Star Trek villain, my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think Christopher Lloyd is the bad guy in this. It's just one of the best things ever. I just love it. I know some people don't like him as the bad guy. I think he's great. I think he overacts. I think he's ridiculous. And that's how all of my Klingons should be, are over the top and ridiculous.
And honestly, when you're casting this movie after you've had Khan and you've done the Wrath of Khan, and you're like, who can we get that will bring gravitas, but like we can have a nice time with, like what have a lighter movie but still have a heavy actor in it.
Yeah.
And like they really knocked it out of the park. He's perfect for this type of a film where it's like it's just mostly about friendship and like doing what you think is right, regardless of what anybody else thinks. It's just such a wholesome movie that you wouldn't have wanted like Raul Julia playing the villain. You wanted somebody who's like easy to like, but who's also he's like Alan Rickman.
Yeah, that's actually a really good comparison. Alan Rickman would have made a good one of the a good Trek villain in the in the aughts or the late 2000 teens or whatever. That's a good point. I mean, and you're right, like, because I mean, most of the Trek movies have a theme, right? They have some kind of theme. Star Trek 2, it's there's two competing themes in the movie. One is revenge, right? It's a revenge movie, but also it's Kirk dealing with getting old.
Yeah.
And so he's constantly struggling with this whole getting old thing. And then this movie, you're right, Stephen, it's about friendship, and it's about doing the right thing.
Yeah, duty.
Well, no, it's against duty, right? He's doing the right thing for the wrong things for the right reasons, or something like that. Like, because he breaks.
The needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many is like what he says to Spock at the end.
Yeah, like he goes against the Vulcan, code or whatever. I mean, like, and the rest of the crew, they throw their careers away ultimately. Now, of course, we know that it's going to work out in the end because it's Trek, but in the moment, they are sacrificing their careers, potentially jail or whatever Starfleet has for that. And they do it because it's their friend. And I think there's something noble that. And then, of course, the fourth movie is about, humanity's short-sightedness. And it's kind of like an anti-pollution, anti-hunting, anti-whaling kind of movie.
It's a tough watch is what it is.
Yeah.
What, the fourth one?
Number 4 is it's a skip. It's a deep cut on an album that you didn't really dig what the artist was doing.
Oh, I love the fourth one because it's so different. Because it feels so different than Trek. And I mean, like, it's a different composer. Like it's so
fun for
different.
Kids.
I mean, my son loves it because the bird of prey was cool, and when it decloaked over the ship, he loved that part. And there was a lot of swearing in that one, and my son really enjoyed that too. He's at that age where swearing is becoming funny.
Yeah, swearing is hilarious the whole time,
Well, I find it funny, speaking of, that in this movie, damn is the only word that they say.
Yeah, there is a lot of damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I captured some of those. And it's funny because after McCoy goes one of his, damn, how can you be deaf with ears like that? Damn it. So my son looks at me and goes, they say damn a lot in this movie, don't they? And I said, yeah, they do. So.
Did you hear they said, where can I get some damn bait?
Yeah.
Yeah. I sure as damn did.
My last 5-word review, by the way, is a pretty good middle film. And I say that because, again, Trek people know, this movie is the middle of a trilogy.
Listen, Shawn, I'm going to have to just jump in. Generations counts, okay?
I mean, yeah, they all count. But I'm just saying, this is a trilogy amongst 10 movies. You have the first one, which is just a standalone film. And then you have this trilogy. And then 5, which is just there. And then 6 just wraps up them all. But, nothing from 5 affects 6. Nothing really from 4.
I see what you mean.
It's not like they lean into one another.
But all the films affect generations, so they have to be included.
Well,
there's 7. There's 7 original
Fair.
Star Trek movies.
Fair.
There's 6, and then there's 4.
6.5.
Yeah. Sure. Kirk on a horse counts, I guess.
Yes.
Even though he's really not in that movie very much. But
and he has his uniform like unzipped to show how casual he's being, but the underlayer is still zipped up all the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't bought yourself any comfort. It just looks worse.
It looks sexy when they rip that thing open, just kind of open the jacket part. I always liked when they did that. And there was always blood on it. It was like their blood catcher part of their uniform.
Yeah. That was the only function of it, really.
Yeah. Like, oh, my uniform is red. You can't see the blood on it. So let me open up the white part so you can see the blood.
Mm-hmm. Girl.
Yeah.
So this is a legitimate Star Trek question.
Yeah, let's do it.
In the series, they wear, the different color uniforms. They got the green and the red and the yellow and the blue. Why in the movies? I mean, I know the first one, it was like bluish, like, it looked like a blue leisure suit from the 70s.
Well, it wasn't a suit. It was a onesie, which was the problem.
Yeah. And they were lower rank back then. Let's remember.
Okay. So why do we have this red color that sticks with the rest of them?
So,
and not alternating?
Nicholas Meyer came up with that. He was the director of Wrath of Khan, and he was not a Trek fan. He did not watch Trek growing up, and so he decided to make he made a naval movie. It's a naval warfare movie. So he felt like Starfleet would act more like naval whatever. So in the Navy you have uniform. And so, the officers wore, the jacket uniform, and they have an insignia on their shoulders and their arms. It kind of identifies their rank. And then the normal crew have different kind of like those shirts and the pants. And of course engineering has different suits altogether. And because and the reason why they stuck through the rest of the 6 films, or the rest of the 5 of those films, was just because they looked good, and it just kind of made sense to do that. And then of course when Next Generation came out, they wanted to kind of go back to the color coding uniform of red means commander, and yellow means engineer, and blue means doctor, things like that.
Yeah, you hear people talk about, the red shirt that gets killed off.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the series, then you don't get that reference when you see these movies.
Yeah, well, in the movies it doesn't really work, really, because the movies are so much about the bridge crew.
Yeah.
Very rarely do.
But every movie you see that there's different color uniforms, and you're very used to seeing your home team in red. So like when you see a red person, you're like, oh, make sure they're okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, why he picked red, I don't know. Maybe because it just looked good on camera. I don't know. I mean, there might be, because Steven is a ginger. That's why he made him red.
Oh, just me? Is it just me that's a ginger?
No, but I think it's just as simple as it would probably they probably tested different colors, and they just liked red because it looked good on camera. So, but they wanted to have some kind of uniform that would distinguish them from, like you said, the officers have different kind of uniform than the crew, things like that.
Yeah.
So, any other Star Trek questions I can answer? I'm here for it. This is good.
No.
Okay. You don't want to talk about the thing that?
Oh, I do have one more question.
Okay.
Did you guys love the powder blue and pink?
Thank you.
And like teal of the seats in the other ship. What was the other ship called?
Oh, Excelsior.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And it was the it was like the navigator's chair that was just like this mid-century modern pale pink.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Hip.
It's the same color of my grandmother's nightgown she wore back when I was like a little kid. I still remember that. I was traumatized.
Is it hot in here?
I thought you were going to talk about Chekhov's outfit with that pink-ish suit.
Oh, no. I actually wrote
and that
on
collar
here on
that makes
notes.
him look like he's Amish.
I said, why? Where's my note? Why is Chekhov dressed like a Puritan? That's what I wrote.
Yeah, Puritan, not Amish. Yeah. You're right. He's a pilgrim. I mean,
he's a space Puritan.
I mean, that's who he is.
He's a Russian space pilgrim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. The costumes are a little bad. I mean, like even Sulu's jacket that he wears, the sleeves are like strips of leather. There's not like, it's not like he was not wearing the sleeves of the jacket, like he just had it draped over him, which was very popular to do in the 80s. It was a jacket he was wearing, but the sleeves were just strips of leather. It was so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, strangely attractive.
I did take a couple notes in this movie.
Oh, wow.
And so I do have another couple questions. What's the Christopher Lloyd's character? He blows up this ship, and what her name, Valkyris or something like that. And she says, "Goodbye, my love." Couldn't they just beam her aboard the ship before they blow up the other ship?
The reason why he did it is because he doesn't want anyone to know what he has done.
And what he knows.
Yeah, they smuggled this tape of the Genesis, whatever, right? And because she had seen it, that's why he's like, unfortunate. she says, I understand, because now I have to kill you because I can't have anyone else know what we've done, what we're doing.
Well, when she says I think she said my lord, my love.
She calls him her love, yeah.
Yeah, I thought, well, if they love each other, I don't see the big deal here.
Well, we didn't say him say he loves her.
That's true. That's true.
And he said, you will be remembered, something like that.
Yeah.
So, but not by any of that crew, because they all dead.
I have 2 more notes here.
Yeah.
Is it Civic?
Savick.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody on the Excelsior, actor-wise, is terrible, except for her. The captain.
Not the Excelsior. They were on
No. The other one. Yeah.
Yeah. They were on the Grissom, the U.S.S.
Grissom. Yeah. So everyone that captain is awful.
Yeah. He's kind of bad.
Like it is. I felt like I was watching a used car salesman.
What the hell's going on down there? Yeah, he's
right.
Yeah,
I think it makes it more realistic that it is just a guy like that, because that's like the military thing, right? Like there's always somebody that's just like agreeable, who's not too terrific that gets promoted.
Yeah, but I felt like I was at church camp a little bit when they were.
But I think that's right where they want you to be with Star Trek.
It was
church
like,
camp.
It was like friendly to the point of, okay, it's a little too friendly here. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, when you run into the Romulans and we have to put our best face forward, that's who we want, man. He's slow with the torpedo.
I do like this idea that Leonard Nimoy was like, okay, well, Kirk is this kind of savvy. He's kind of sexy. He's kind of rough around the edges. So let's make a guy who is like a cool church pastor. Let's just make him just the nicest guy. Oh no, let's go. We gotta call Starfleet and go by the book. So.
All right, my last note. My last note. First of all, if I ever raise goats, they will sound exactly like young Spock, moaning in the distance. So, this 7-year thing that happens to Vulcans.
Yeah,
the burning.
Is this like
the pond
Is
fire.
this like pond fire? Is this like Vulcan menstruation that just happens every 7 years, where they,
Sort of. I mean, they have to mate is the thing. It's like their mating thing, and if they don't, then it's extremely painful.
And honestly, same.
Yeah, if you don't mate within 7 years, it's really
every
painful.
7 years.
Yeah.
Once every 7 years. So it's basically like they're in the rut, like a deer.
They're Mormons.
Yes.
Yeah.
There might be some Trek fans listening that are sad that I don't know all of the lore behind pond fire, but it's not fire, it's far, but it literally means like fire blood or blood fire or something like that. Like his
it
body
is menstruation.
It kind of
Yeah, every 7 years.
Yeah.
They get the blood fire. I'm gonna start telling I can tell my wife that she's got the blood fire.
You could tell her that. You could tell her that one time.
Yeah. One time.
Yeah. Okay.
My mother called me Francis.
Cool. I'm sure she'll be fine with it.
Did you, Steven? Did you recently watch Johnny Dangerously? Because you've made like 3 references to that.
No, I haven't seen it in years.
Yeah, you've made several references to it with pre-show and in the show here. I'm picking up what you're laying down. I was just wondering, like, were you in a mood to listen to watch Johnny Dangerously?
Mr. Scott, have you always multiplied your repair estimates by a factor of 4? Certainly, sir. How else can I keep my reputation as a miracle worker?
That's right. Obviously, Stephen found the quotes part of the page.
He did.
Okay, so I do want to talk about
this. This is another just random Star Trek question.
Yeah.
Is James Doohan actually Scottish?
No, he's Canadian.
Because
I didn't know that.
Because as I was listening, I thought this is the worst Scottish accent that I've heard about.
Hold on, I could be wrong.
God bless him.
Yeah, he's Canadian. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, he can stay. Whoever, is he still alive?
No, he passed away in 2005 at the age of 85.
Man, I hope he died in the middle of a real great situation.
I told this story last week, but he was a soldier. He fought during World War II. He was part of the Normandy invasion, and so that just makes him already a complete badass. And
Whoa, language.
And he had his middle finger on his right hand shot off during that. Yep. So he can't do what you're doing right now, Stephen. And so he's always really good. He's always trying to hide it. And again, I noticed it in the fifth movie last week.
Huh.
But yeah, he.
Well, I'm ashamed of him for being insecure, but neither here nor there.
No, I don't know about being insecure. I think he literally just says because he thinks he doesn't want to make other people uncomfortable with it.
He was gonna regrow his finger, but he just had to have more power.
It might could have happened on the Genesis planet.
I'm giving it all she can take.
So yeah, no, he's Canadian. He grew up in Ontario, Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
Vague.
Well, there's a Sarnia, Ontario, Canada.
Okay.
Sarnia. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly.
I bet it's Sarnia.
Oh, sure. Where are we going through the wardrobe? Oh, we're going to Sarnia. Oh, okay, we'll see Mr. Tumnus. No? Okay.
No, I'm with you.
Okay. The word, sir, the word is no. I am therefore going anyway.
I do like that line. Are you just going to randomly say quotes from the movie?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So, I will say this. One of my favorite scenes or sequences in movies, all of the movies of the world that I have seen, and I've seen many of them, I absolutely love the stealing of the Enterprise. I love everything about it. I mean, that's just one of those movie moments that I could watch anytime. If someone says, "Hey, Shawn, why don't you pull up the YouTube clip and watch that?" I will just stop what I'm doing and watch it. I love everything. I love how, when they break McCoy out of the mental hospital, or whatever, and Sulu flips that big guy, which, I mean, it's a funny moment, right? Because he's like, "Don't call me tiny," but like, let's be real. Yes, that guy is like 6'4", and I don't care what kind of kung fu, or I guess he wouldn't use kung fu because he's Japanese.
Wow.
What kind of martial arts that, well, Japanese men can still learn kung fu. What martial arts he knows.
So
there's a physics thing happening there, but also Sulu is a bridge officer. He's an officer. Like, you're just a guard man. You would never step to you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like a private stepping up to a lieutenant. He would get his ass beat like he does. So anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, if you'd have watched the series, you would have known that Sulu has been involved in some real shenanigans.
Oh, especially with the sword. Anyway, so then they do the breakout, right? And Scotty is in on it too, which is great. And so, the captain's all like, "Oh, Mr. Scott, we're gonna break some of Enterprise's speed records." And he's like, whatever. He can't get out of there fast enough, right? Which I love. So when they get into the Enterprise, and like you said, he says, give the word, and the word is given. So they decide to steal the Enterprise, and they have this bit where, again, Andrew, because we just watched the fifth movie recently, where Scotty is kind of like the comic relief throughout that whole movie. It's kind of the same way again, where he's got a couple of funny lines, but like Kirk goes, "Okay, open the space doors," and he goes, "Yeah, I'm working on it," because he's having to basically hack the system, right? Like he's trying to force override the system to open the space doors, because Sulu is not going to hit the e-brake, right? That ship's going to keep going, and I always love that it just and like they're acting, right? Like they both have this look of like when you're about to park, like especially if you're not driving, and someone parks and they park a little too close, and you're like, you just gotta clench up, like watching James Doohan do that. Great. So I love everything about that scene, and the music is great. And then of course the transwarp drive stops because Scotty boogered it up. It's a wonderful scene. I love it so much. Okay, I'm done talking.
I would have got a little chuckle had they just scraped the side of the door. Because, I mean, the ship's going to blow up anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be decommissioned.
Right.
What movie did they do that in? Oh, it was in Galaxy Quest. They did that.
Yeah.
When the kid's backing out and it scrapes it. They probably didn't because they didn't either have the budget to do it or know how to like represent it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They could just have the crew, just have the camera on the crew inside and just have the sound of metal scraping.
And have like a little shake, and he just looks over at Sulu and
have
Sulu's
each other
like,
just kind of look,
that would have been kind of funny.
Side eye. Yeah.
I do like that. I like that. Okay. Anything else? I mean, like I feel like we haven't really talked much about the movie itself. I mean, it just, I don't know. They there's this really funny scene. So basically, the other part of that we haven't really talked about is the fact that at the end of the second movie, right, when Spock puts his hand on McCoy's face and says "Remember," I guess maybe they knew they were going to make a third one, and that's how they were going to explain it away because they obviously filmed that 2 years earlier. But everything that I've always read was like that was their plan. But maybe Nicholas Meyer, put that in there. But I always kind of like the fact that McCoy is walking around with Spock's whatever marbles in his head, and he has to like randomly act like Spock throughout the movie.
Yeah.
What kind of poison do you want? You want your usual poison? To order poison in a bar is illogical. Things like that. I always really thought that was good acting to him to kind of channel Spock there.
Yeah, I think the real strength in acting, like art imitating life from the movie, is Mr. Scott. When Sulu is like, she's supposed to have transwarp drive, and he's like, and if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon.
We've quoted about half the clips I've already picked. I love it. All right. Well, speaking clips, are we ready to do those? I mean, anything else you guys? Andrew, you got any more questions? I mean,
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Yeah.
I will say this is interesting, and these movies came out as a good time, before Twitter and social media, because the Klingons look very different in these movies than they did in the original series. The original series, they just look like dudes with Fu Manchus, right? Like they just
their brows weren't crazy.
Yeah, and then in the first movie, the motion picture, they completely changed them with the big furrowed brow and the crazy yucky teeth, and then we get more of their, more of them in this movie, right? We are introduced to the Bird of Prey, which is a ship that can cloak, which we had not seen yet, which is pretty interesting. We had it in the original series. The Romulans had a Bird of Prey that can cloak, but this one can also do that. And we get more of the Klingons, and their ship is all hazy, and there's smoke everywhere, and he's got this weird, ugly space dog, and they're all kind of gross and whatever. Like the movies did that, and then that was just what the Klingons looked like for forever until Star Trek Discovery comes out and changes the Klingons, and people got pissed. They're like, "That's not what they look like." Well, you're like, "Well, they changed them before, and no one cared. Like, why do we care now?" But
I will say, in this particular movie, their eyebrows are insane.
Yeah.
And they really do some close-ups where they're just like, listen, these eyebrows are ridiculous. But
yeah. Well,
yeah.
If you're gonna put Christopher Lloyd in there, you gotta make sure it's ridiculous.
Wait, that was Christopher Lloyd
as the Klingon, as the. Wait, really? Okay, I was like, wait a minute, you've seen this movie 100 times, at least 5. All right.
No, closer to 100.
Really? I mean, outside of watching it with me, did you watch it any other times?
Oh, dude, I don't differentiate. Like if I love a series, I watch the if there's a 6-movie series, I'll watch the 4th one. That's my least favorite just as many times as I watch whatever my favorite is.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I know I've probably seen Wrath of Khan and Undiscovered Country more than the other one.
Yeah.
I because there are times where it's like, I'm in the mood for a Star Trek. Well, I'm not going to watch 1, and I'm probably not going to watch 5.
Yeah.
So let's watch 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Yeah.
That's a good Saturday afternoon. Which this coming weekend, my wife will be out of town, so it's just me and the kids, and I have every intention of watching the 6th movie with my son.
Wow.
Because he
Throwing a rave.
He hasn't seen that one yet. So that'll be cool. In fact, I was kind of a bummer. You know how they AMC or whatever will do those Fathom events where they'll bring back like old movies. They had Wrath of Khan in the theater, but it was the weekend that we went to the app game. And I was actually kind of annoyed. I was like, oh my gosh, I would have taken my son to go see Wrath of Khan in the theater. How cool would that be to see that?
And then Declan would have started wearing so many like deep V's, showing off his pecs. He would have been chain smoking cigs all of a sudden, just growing his hair out.
He's still so into Star Wars that it almost feels like he's doing the Trek thing because he knows that it makes me happy.
Well, like as a boy growing up, like it's still space. So like everybody has a preference, and Star Wars is pretty romantic, especially when you're young. I think like Star Trek is the more like adult, like mature one to enjoy. And even if you look at the video games, like if you get a Star Wars video game, it's like pew 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 pew, and if you get a Star Trek video game, it's like the Romulan ambassador enters. Do you want to provoke her? Or welcome her?
I mean, I have played Star Trek Online before, and it's all right. But you're not wrong. I mean, also in Star Wars, it's got better toys. I mean, my son has $400, $500 worth of Star Wars Legos in his bedroom right now. One of which is the AT-AT Walker that he bought with his own money. He saved up $180 to buy the AT-AT Walker that's in his room. That's his like prize collection. Anytime someone comes over, if you guys came over, he would go and get the AT-AT Walker and show it to you because he is so proud of it.
Yeah. Speaking of toys, when I was like, I guess maybe 4th grade, I remember going over to a friend's house, and he wasn't like a close friend, but he wanted to invite people over. And and so I was like, I guess I'll go, whatever. And he was a huge Star Trek fan, mostly of The Next Generation, because he had a lot of Picard stuff there. But I remember seeing Star Trek toys, and I was like, this is not doing it for me. Because he was like, check out the transport pad, and he put his whatever it's called, and he put his little figure on there, and like the tube spun around, and it had a mirror, so it looked like it was gone. And I was like, oh, how cool. And then he was like, look at this tricorder. And I says, well, what does it do? And he goes, well, it like flips open and makes noise.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, Andrew. He probably forgot to tell you that you had to have an imagination to enjoy it.
Yeah. I wanted to go, like, he had a tree fort. I wanted to go climb the tree, but he wanted to show off his tricorder.
Yeah.
Now, they came out with, it was about 10 years ago when smartphones were first becoming a thing. They came out with a tricorder that would do a lot of the things that the tricorders do in the movies. Like obviously time and, and some text messages and stuff, but also like barometric pressure. And I mean, it's just pulling information from the Weather Channel, right?
Right.
I mean, this thing was like $500 too. It was ridiculous. I'm sure you can probably, get like a 3D print mold to put your smartphone in to make it do the same thing, And I know that there are kind of not, unlicensed or whatever, but like people will make the like their watch faces look like the Star Trek kind of like the button panel. It's called the L cars, but like this what it looks like. So again, to your point, Andrew, the toys aren't as cool. Though literally yesterday, my wife was at Walmart and nestled inside the Star Wars section, because in the picture she sent me is literally a row of lightsabers, and then next to it is another row of other lightsabers. In the middle is Captain Kirk and Wrath of Khan action figures, and then the phaser. And I'm like, buy me the phaser. She goes, oh, by the time I got your text message, we already left. So I got to go to Walmart so I can buy me a phaser.
Well, hopefully you got some like Chick-fil-A or something out of the deal.
I got some Cinnamon Toast Crunch or something. I don't know.
Yes, dude.
I do still eat that. It's my thing.
You're going to get a plastic watch one of these days.
One of these days, I'm going to replace my watch with it.
Keep
all right.
Box tops.
Ready for some clippy clips? Let's do it.
Okay.
Clippy clip. I think Steven already said it, but here we go.
She's supposed to have transwarp drive. Aye. And if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon.
Come, Mr. Scott. Young minds, fresh ideas. Be darned.
I love that.
Love that one.
Oh, my gosh. All right, here's 22 seconds of Christopher Lloyd being awesome.
Speak. Impressive. They can make planets.
Oh, yes. New cities, homes in the country. Your woman at your side, children playing at your feet. And overhead, fluttering in the breeze, the flag of the Federation. Charming. Station.
Yes, my lord.
I just love that. Okay. This is a good one. This always made me laugh. Oh, why is this 29 seconds? Ooh, this might be the wrong clip. Let's find out.
There aren't going to be any damn permits. How can you get a permit to do a damn illegal thing? Look, price you name, money I got.
Place you name, money I name, otherwise bargain. No.
All right, damn it. It's Genesis. The name of the place we're going is Genesis.
Genesis?
Yes, Genesis. How can you be deaf with ears like that?
Genesis forbidden.
Oh, I love that guy. He cracks me up.
He's like a cross between Yoda and Abe Vigoda.
So just Goda.
Yeah.
Goda.
Abe Vigoda. There you go.
I love it. Oh, that's great. All right. We mentioned it before. Here we go.
Keeping you busy?
Don't get smart, Tiny.
Don't call me Tiny.
Yeah, don't call him Tiny. Oh, I love it. I also love that little guy, the guy at the transporter room that just, I mean, Uhura has very little to do in this movie, right? She's only in this movie, like, she has like 3 lines. But in this one scene that she has where she's like, I like this. It's quiet. And he goes, yeah, it's okay for you who are at the tail end of your career. And the look she gives him,
yeah,
priceless. That look of, oh, you think you're calling me old? Well, in 2 movies, I'm going to be naked doing a fan dance, so you can just go sit in the closet.
Mm-hmm. And Kirk already got a little taste.
Right. Yeah, he did. But here's Scotty saying something funny.
Level, please.
Transporter room.
Thank you.
Up your shaft.
I love the snark. He's giving snark to an elevator. I love it.
What a Canadian.
Oh, it's great. All right, here's that bit I mentioned with the space doors.
Your space doors.
Now, Mr. Scott.
Sir?
The doors, Mr. Scott.
Hi, sir. I'm working on it.
Oh, that got off awkwardly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool that you could hear R2-D2 in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just hanging out. He was the one to actually open the doors. It was.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned it yet, but I typically do it at the end of the movie. But the James Horner score for this movie is so good.
It's great.
Yeah,
it
is
so good. I mean, and I
and
love
sometimes when the Klingon vessel is a little bit too green and their explosions are a little too awful, you really need to lean on something, and you can lean on this Horner score.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. It really is. Now you say that, and now I'm curious. Hold on. I'm gonna have to keep looking here because I know that Paramount did this. I'm wondering if if Industrial Light and Magic did this movie. Yes, they did. The special effects was done by Industrial Light and Magic. So, and they did the Wrath of Khan also. And for some reason, they were not involved in the 5th movie, which was a mistake. They should have been brought back.
I blame Shatner.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Let's see. Yeah, and Skywalker Sound did all the additional sound effects. So that's cool. All right, Transwarp Drive. This part always makes me smile.
Transwarp Drive, maximum velocity in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I mean, it. The only thing that it didn't do was make a fart noise at the end. You know? Like,
yeah. Or like the knocking noise of a gas tank that's empty.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that it makes weird noises. I love everything about that. And then it shows the next cut of the Enterprise warping away. I love it. I think it's so great. I want to go rewatch it right now. And I
will say that, speaking of warp, I think warp is done better in Star Wars. Like, we see the twirling lights or whatever from inside the cabin. And in Star Trek, we just get this, like, taste the rainbow that comes out the other end as they drive by.
Yeah, we don't get warp very often from the point of view of the bridge because it's just stars flying by. It's nothing special. Right. It's just kind of normal.
And that's what it would be, right? Like,
right, yeah.
Well, we don't know, obviously. We have no idea.
But it would stand to reason that, like, stars flying by really fast would just look, like a blur.
Like lines, yeah.
Yeah, but to your point, Andrew, I mean, I know what you mean. Where it's just the rainbow color is that they're just doing that thing. It doesn't quite have the same effect as going to Lightspeed, where it's that punch, which is why in the Kelvin timeline they changed it to that punch. I mean, when it goes, it goes, right? And then it shows. We do see the ship at warp a couple times where it's almost like a gray. Like they're flying through like a gray cloud, and it looks very different. Warp in that version looks very different. And next week when we watch Beyond, there's even a shot of the Enterprise flying. You actually see what's called the warp bubble, which, getting into the science of it, is how warp drive is capable. Like there's literally like a bubble that protects the ship, which is why no one ages when they go into light speed. I know, I'm not going to get too much farther into it or we'll all fall asleep.
You know who does warp really well is the Orville.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I love
how I've always
they're...
thought that Vans, the shoe company, did a pretty good job.
Is it just me? So I've always contested that the ship looks like a bottle opener.
Yeah, it does.
Like if you hold it and you got the rings where the engines are, like you can open up a big bottle. But I love the Orville. I think that show is fantastic. The ship looks kind of weird, but I love that show so much. It's so good.
It's like the Tesla of ships.
Kind of. That's a good point. Yeah. I like that. The Tesla of space. The last season that they did was fantastic.
I didn't finish it. I need to go back and finish. I just haven't time.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, you want to talk about not just lasers and good versus evil. Like we're gonna hit some hard subject. Those people that hate the word woke because it makes you feel uncomfortable, don't watch Orville because they talk about some stuff and it's great. All right. Stephen has heard my father say this and the way he says this. And so my dad can quote a lot of movies, pretty much anything before 1998. After that, his repertoire kind of stopped. But
same.
He has quoted. And again, Stephen, you've heard this before. He loves using this quote.
Very good.
That's it. Just very simple.
Very good.
But I can't tell you how many times I'll say, "Hey, Dad, I got a straight A today in class." Very good. That's the way he says it.
Very good.
Because that's
very good.
That's Krug after he shoots the gunner, right? He kills his gunner, which is a trope, right? The bad guy kills his own men, and so when the guy's like, "Hey, I have some news," he's like, he points the gun at him, "Say the wrong thing," and he goes, "I have some people here," and he goes, "Oh,
Very good.
So
Very good.
So my dad he always says very good. He always has that gravel.
He would always do that, and he would always say, "You are my son, Shawn, my only son, Shawn."
Yes, that also did happen. Thank you, Steve. Here's
He's a funny
Christopher
guy.
Lloyd yelling.
Let me hear.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Get out!
3,
Get out of there! Get out!
It's the Libyans.
Yeah. Yeah. Who do you think? It's the Libyan. Because you had your secret van had the name of your company on the side of it. Maybe you should
What are you going to do?
not do that. Now, Stephen, you're not a dad, but Andrew and I, we are, and I am pretty confident that we have said a version of this, and you probably have too, Stephen, just to different reasons, but
Just to other people's kids.
yeah, or a girlfriend or something, but we have all said a version of this.
You should take the Vulcan too.
No!
But why?
Because you wish it.
Yes. All right. Well, that's all my clips, all 9 clips that I captured there. And now this part of the game, or part of the show, is sponsored by...
Help Open Pike Night celebrate hashtag where November has gone before. This year, from November 1st through 30th, go to openpike.com/join us and leave us a voicemail or message to be entered to win a Hallmark Keepsake Strange New Worlds Enterprise light-up ornament. 1 entry per person, and remember, openpike.com is the easiest way for you to get your voice into the ears of the people who make Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Make any bridge just a little bit brighter with Open Pike Night and your brand new tiny flagship.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
All right, this part of the show is our game. Our game is called Hey, Did You Notice? This is part of the game, or part of the show, where Andrew plays a game with us. And I guess I should stop talking and typing at the same time, because clearly I'm failing at it. This is where Andrew plays a game with us called Hey, Did You Notice? I will get this out eventually, where he asks us questions about the movie. Steve and I will go back and forth. First person to 5 wins. Andrew, please explain it better than I have.
Okay, well, I'm just going to ask questions, and Steven's going to go first. And, if he gets it wrong, it's going to go to you, Shawn.
That's fair.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. At the beginning of the movie, when we see Spock's torpedo pod launched out of the ship, and it lands on Genesis, it is inscribed with a marking. What does it say?
Oh, man. I do not remember.
Shawn?
A marking. You mean what the serial number on the side of it? Because it's a Mark IV torpedo. But...
Well, you're close.
Okay.
But it is not Mark IV.
Oh, what is it?
It's a Mark VI.
Oh, damn it.
I was on the other side of the...
Yeah, it was.
Gosh dang it, freaking Roman numerals.
That's what I was looking... That was what I was going after. Was,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking of like an inscription.
Yeah,
with long
and prosper.
Maybe I shouldn't have said it.
No, it's okay. You did great.
It's all right. All right, Shawn, this is your question. When Kirk enters the elevator at the beginning of the movie, or whatever that thing is, I assume it's an elevator.
Turbo lift, yeah.
Turbo lift. He's going where? He punches in a floor, and a letter, and a number.
A letter and a number?
Yeah, to take him to some other level of the ship.
I don't remember. C deck level 5. I don't know.
B-52.
It is C8. You were very close, Shawn.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's funny in the scene. It's blurry until after he pushes them, and then it zooms in and it clears up on the letters and numbers. You can see that it was C8.
Roddenberry.
Yeah. All right, Steve. Good. What was the temperature of Sector 2 of the Genesis planet? The first sector was 22.2 degrees Celsius.
I'm glad that you asked because it was 41 degrees Celsius.
Shawn.
I'm trying to remember which Sector 2 was. Was that the desert or the frozen tundra sector?
It was the desert, I'll
I
tell
would
you
say I
that.
think it's the desert sector. So it was like it was pretty hot. I mean, so I don't know, but it was still Celsius. So I don't know, 50.8 Celsius.
That would be really warm.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah, for us Yanks, the conversion's a little difficult. It was only 39.4 degrees.
39.
So I came the closest.
Yeah, you were pretty close there. Shawn, how many flintlock pistols were on Kirk's wall?
Oh, I know this.
8.
Steve.
Oh,
6.
There were 6.
Dang it! The other 2 are gunpowder things. I know there's 8 things on there.
Yeah. All right, Steve, this is your last question here. What is the name of the medicine that Kirk gives McCoy? I assume it's medicine, but it's the little thing he puts on his finger in space medicine.
Yeah, it's Kofefe.
Shawn.
I was not expecting that. Holy balls.
No one knows.
I can't remember what he says because he walks in and he
Yeah.
does the Vulcan salute. He goes, "How many fingers am I holding up?" He goes, "That's not very damn funny." And he says, "What's this?" He says, "It'll help you travel."
Yeah.
Tramadol.
I don't remember. Gosh dang it.
It was Lexorin.
No, never in a million years would have remembered that.
I think that's probably just like a made-up name, but there is a real medicine called Lexapro because I remember that. I remember hearing that before, but I don't know
From
what
the
it
doctor
does.
that I go to.
Yeah. No, I don't know what it does, but I know that it's a real medicine. But Lexorin, yeah, that's the name of it.
All right. Well, hey, Steven wins. Steven beat me in a Star Trek thing. Congrats.
Steven.
Steven.
Yeah. All right. It just makes me smile. That you
I'll
love that.
never guess the right key.
You're pretty close.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Time for our top 3. Well, we had one of those little classic old snafus where I ask a couple little, I'll say, "Hey, what do you think about this or this?" And I don't get an answer for a little bit, so I throw on Twitter, "Well, this is what we're going to do." And then you say, "What about the other one?" So we're going to do 2, which is fine. And so, Steven, you get to go first with your top 3 Christopher Lloyd film.
Number 3, Angels in the Outfield.
Okay.
I find it. Christopher Lloyd he's so pure of heart that like him around kids just works. Like it's a good combo. And but he also like treats him kind of like a crotchety old man, you know. He's like an angel, but he's also like get off my lawn, you know. It's just a wonderful role. Number 2, The Addams Family.
Yes.
Nice. He's the best Uncle Fester.
Yeah, he's really great, and I think that first movie is like the one because he like takes it the most seriously, and it's like this real. I don't know, it's almost like performance art. And then number 1, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yeah.
He's so great at it, and he's so scary. I remember being really scared as a kid, and then as I get older, obviously, like it's it's classic Christopher Lloyd.
It is.
Yeah. All right. I will go next, and I'm frantically looking for his IMDb page because you've basically said my list, which is fine.
Well, we grew up together.
Well, we did, and that is pretty.
Just reverse the order. Number 3, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Actually, I think I have. Yeah, actually, I do have Who Framed Roger Rabbit as number 3. My number 2 actually is Back to the Future 3, and my number 1 is The Addams Family, with an honorable mention, which is a cheat because it's not a movie, but an honorable mention to The West Wing, because he plays a character in The West Wing, and if I get an opportunity to say that, I'm going to. So
you got to let Bartlett be Bartlett.
That's I'm a little turned on now that you know that.
Andrew, can you give us a second?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll turn around.
I didn't know he was in Sin City 2.
Everybody knows that,
No,
Shawn.
they don't. Stop it. He was also in Psych, which I really appreciate.
It's P-Psych. If you remove the P, it still spells psych.
Yeah.
It's like W Whole Foods.
Or, just the word Q.
Quewe?
Yeah, the way. Well, what you got there, Andrew?
Well, I have Back to the Future 1.
Never heard of it.
Because I think that in 3 he's not great.
Yeah, Shawn.
Okay, let me back up. Sorry, let me backtrack that a minute. He is good. I just like him better in the first one.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I'm gonna move that to an honorable mention though, because that's my favorite movie of all time, and so I think it's not really fair for me to use it, so I'm gonna move it. I loved him as the dad in Nobody that we watched for the podcast. That was such a good movie, and he was really great in it. So that's gonna be my number 3.
That was a recent movie, right?
Yeah.
With Bob Odenkirk.
Well,
I've got Professor Plum in Clue.
Oh, that's a good one.
Clue. And then my favorite of him, it takes me back to my childhood. It's a little ditty called Dennis the Menace, where he plays Switchblade Sam, which I didn't know his name was Switchblade Sam until today when I looked it up.
Wow.
But he was kind of terrifying in that as well.
I wonder what it is about him. Yeah, because he's like just friendly enough that you trust him. And so I think maybe as a kid, when somebody's just friendly enough that you trust him and then they're being like a bad guy, you're like, come on, man, I wanted you to be better.
Yeah.
So it's funny. The only other one I actually could think of was he was in that Suburban Commando movie.
Yeah,
I bought the soundtrack to Suburban Commando. And let me give you a little sample. It's a nice place to live, but I wouldn't want to visit.
Yeah, I remember that. The only thing that I remember from that movie is the line where he comes home and he screams, "I was frozen today." That's the only part that I remember.
Oh, man. There's one moment where they're in the yard and they're like somebody, like Hulk Hogan's character, hurt somebody's motorcycle. And they get mad and he's like, "What are you going to do? Kick my ass?" And then the guy goes, "Nah, this is the 90s. I'm going to sue you."
Yeah. That's right. Gosh, you're bringing back memories from that movie, which is strange. Okay. Twitter was pretty active on this one, which is great. So Cameron from Green Shirt Podcast and Newbies Trek Through TNG, and who was on with us last week, says Expendables. Oh, sorry, I guess context. So the one I put on Twitter was your favorite third of a series. So this movie is technically a third. Not technically, it is the third of a series, even though I mentioned it being the middle. So Cameron says Expendables 3, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And then I think both of these are the best in their respective franchises. And then he said Jaws 3D, just silly fun that knows exactly what it is. All right. Across the Stars podcast says Indiana Jones and Last Crusade, which is my favorite of the 3. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which is also my favorite of the 3.
It's the first great Harry Potter.
Yes.
I think so. And Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, which is also my, I think I said...
Never heard of it.
Two Towers was my favorite. Honorable mention to Return of the Jedi. And then you also put Revenge of the Sith, but he has a Star Wars podcast, so I guess he has to. Let's see. Somebody, he didn't participate. Hold on. Let's see. He didn't participate. We had people commenting, but not on the thing. Let's see. John T. Bolts, who was supposed to be on last week, but was not feeling well or something, said Phantasm 3, Skyfall, and Last Crusade, and The Bourne Ultimatum. So he gave us his top 4. Your next favorite movie says Nightmare on Elm Street 3, which we're going to be doing in about 14 weeks.
Oh.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and Toy Story 3. Darren from NostalgiaCast says, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The Three Colors Red. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, The Bourne Ultimatum, and Skyfall. And then he asked, does it count? Which I said, yes, it does. And
Skyfall.
then from there, the conversation just has its own legs and just goes. So I go to Twitter and
Twitter.
Participate in the conversation there. All right, time for this.
Wait, what's supposed to happen?
This is where we're going to give this movie a score from 0 to 10. 0 being awful and 10 being fantastic. I don't think I needed to explain that, but I was vamping, so I pulled up my sheet. All right. So, Andrew goes first.
Well, the IMDb gives it 6.6 out of 10. But I am going to bump it up just a tad to a 6.8 dams out of 10.
All right. That's very fair. What you got, Steven?
6.89996.
All right.
I feel like we're on The Price is Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
All right. Well, then I'll do
you
6.
would feel like that.
I'll do just 6.9. No.
Hey, come on, man.
Yeah. $1. No. I like this movie. I think I mentioned it earlier. I think it's my favorite of the odd movies. I don't, 1 is pretty boring. 5 is, silly and whatever. Generations holds a special place in my heart because of my dad, but again, it's not a great movie. And Insurrection, I think, is the worst Trek movie of them all.
But I would still watch it.
I mean, I will watch it, and eventually we'll do it for the podcast. My intention is to eventually do all 13 movies for the show at some point. But I still like this movie. I still think it's actually pretty well made, and I'm glad that this one did well enough for them to give Leonard Nimoy the helm at the next movie, because the next movie is a lot of fun and just very different. So,
yeah,
I gave the 5th movie a 6.5.
Ooh,
I clearly
low.
have to go above that. Do I want to do 6.9? No, but I'll actually give it a 7, just a straight 7. I like this movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a good Trek movie. It feels like a good Trek movie. I love the heist.
Respectable.
And the music is great. The soundtrack elevates this movie, I think, a lot. But
it does just miss that sweet, back and forth between Kirk and Spock.
Yeah, exactly. Because obviously he has like one line in the whole movie, and it's at the very end. Which I will kind of say I kind of appreciate if the actor is going to act in the movie and direct it. Not putting yourself in the movie very much is kind of a bold choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and my question is like
humble.
for young Spock that's just like wailing in the background. I know you get paid if you speak differently, but do you get paid if you wail?
Probably. I mean, he's not a featured extra, right? He has, even though he doesn't have any lines, you're right, but he's a named character, and if you're named, then you get different.
Right, but is dialogue the same as like?
Yeah, I think you don't get paid by the line. You don't, you know what I'm saying? You don't get paid per
Yeah, but
line.
can you spell?
Screams, just scream. I'll never forget when I was doing, the films that I was working on, and we were doing Much Ado About Middle School. There was a kid. He was an extra, right? All he was an extra. Well, the kid came to set. He was exhausted, so every time he would get to a scene where we'd have extras, he would just lay his head down and fall asleep. Well, it turned into a gag. So it turned into a point where every time we saw him, we wanted him to be asleep because it was funny. Well, we started calling him the sleeping kid, and then the director goes, "You need to stop calling him that, because if we give him a name, then I have to pay him." Like if we give him a credit as Sleeping Kid, then now I have to pay him. Whereas now he's just a volunteered extra. And so we had to stop calling him Sleeping Kid. Anyway.
Well, we definitely don't want anybody to get paid.
Well, this is an independent. That was weird how I said that. An independent film. I mean, none of us was getting paid very much. Just one of those things. But that rounds the movie out of 6.8999866667. Thank you, Stephen. He gave me a finger pistol.
Pew, pew, pew.
That's the movie. That's the show. That's everything. Stephen, please tell our listeners where they can find you. I didn't even introduce you as singer-songwriter guy what has his music on the NASCAR video game extraordinaire man. I just introduced you as a dude that I know. I guess I did you a disservice. So please tell people who you are and why they should listen to you.
Well, I'm glad you asked. My top 3 movies as the third of a series are number 3, Army of Darkness, Bruce Campbell. Number 2, Return of the Jedi, Star Wars. Probably heard of it. And number 1, Return of the King, I think is just the best you could do. No, but what were you saying? Oh, Twitter. Yeah, Steve R. Everett. You can follow me. I made a movie with one of my best friends, Paul Fow, for my newest record, and we're entering it into film festivals right now, and it's really exciting. And just writing songs and doing my thing. I love you guys. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you and your audience. And it's just always good to hang out and catch up with old friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, where's your film being shown? What festivals? Anything around here?
Well, no, I've applied, so like they have to tell me
if
it's any good at all. I'm in it, so I assume it won't do that well. But no, we're really excited about it. It's basically like a documentary, a music documentary, but about someone who's not famous or very successful. And so it's just kind of about having a small story and about how that's still important. And I'm very proud of it. I'm excited. So as soon as we hear back from all these festivals, we'll release it. But you can find out everything, SteveEverettMusic.com or SteveEverett.net if you're feeling old school.
If it gets picked up, I'd be, do you want us to review it for the podcast?
Please, honestly, if I, get some kind of juice like that in any way, I would be happy to share it with you guys and make it like, if E Entertainment Television is like, we want to interview you for this, I'd be like, well, here's the panel that has to interview me.
Nice.
Sounds good.
I like it. All right.
But not Vector.
No, yeah, definitely not him. We do.
He looks, of the 3 of us, he looks the best in a suit, though.
That's true. That is true.
Just kidding. Everybody's invited. I love you guys. Star Trek 3 forever.
I don't think that's what it's called. Yeah. So that's it. That's our show. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we will have the guys back on from Digital Dissection, and we're going to be doing Star Trek Beyond. So we're going all the way to the most recent Trek that has been released, which is still going on 5 years old now, 5 or 6 years old. I think, am I right on this? Whenever the next one comes out, whenever the Kelvin timeline Star Trek 4 comes out, the gap between the third one and the fourth one will be the longest time we have not had a Trek movie since 1979. Which is kind of crazy to think about, but yeah, he. If I knew how to spell that, that would be the episode title, but I don't know how to spell
DWAAAAAAH.
Okay. We'll see.
I thought it had 2 H's.
Maybe.
I love you.
Next week, that's what we're doing next week. We're very excited for that. In the meantime, go to our website, cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com. There you can find links to all of our social media. Interact with me on Twitter. And as long as it's still free, we're going to be there. I don't know what's happening. If you're listening to this in 2 years in the future, I'd be really curious to see what's happened since then. Also, check us out on myspace.com. Facebook.com/cheapseatreviews. I was really bummed out to find out that MySpace doesn't have an app on the iOS. Like, now is the time to get back onto that. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's our show. Thank you so much for listening. Again, Stephen, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. And until next time. So on behalf of Stephen and Sam, who of course is not here still, but he'll be here maybe next week, we hope. And Andrew, this is Shawn saying thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Steve.
I was about to play it.
Steven.
Oh, you beat me to it.
Spay and neuter your pets.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.